You decided to make a webtoon, but you got overwhelmed along the way. You don't know where to start, you don't know what to do. In this video, I will show you a step-by-step guide so that you can follow along and create your own webcomic. Before you begin anything, make sure you have the right hardware and software to actually do it. For traditional, you probably need a scanner and just regular pencils, pens and paper. A lightbox would also help. For digital, the materials are probably a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. A simple graphic tablet would work for a beginner as well. You just need to have a working PC or a laptop, and a display tablet would suit someone who is more experienced, but it definitely makes your life easier. For those who work digitally, there are some great free art software like Medibank, Ibis Paint and Krita, and some of the non-free options are Procreate for iOS, Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint, which is the best to make comics. Right now, I personally use an iPad Pro 12.9 inches and Clip Studio Paint to make my webtoons, but I used to work with a simple graphic tablet that cost less than $50 and my old laptop. Define your budget and see what you already have and proceed accordingly. Before you come up with anything, think of the kind of story you want to write. What you want to write, why you want to write it, a fantasy, a romance, an action. If you already have thought of a story, identify the genre that it belongs to. If your story or the one that you want to write belong to more than two genres, identify the main and the secondary one. After you decide on the genre, it's time to come up with ideas for the plot. Read books, watch movies, read other webtoons that you like, fill your head with many ideas and possibilities, and then open up the notes apps in your phone or laptop, simply grab a pen or paper and write down everything you can think of. Write and write and write, until the idea that clicks pops up. After you've come up with your idea, it's time to turn it to plot. Ask yourself questions like who, when, how, where, what, why. Think of the main characters of your story. Once the story starts to consolidate in your head, try to summarize your plot in one easy-to-digest sentence, a long line. A long line is a one-sentence summary that includes details such as who the main character is, what the setup will be, what the conflict will be, and who or what the antagonist will be. For instance, in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling, the longline would be a boy wizard begins training and must battle for his life with a dark lord who murdered his parents. Some other examples in famous webtoons: let's take omniscience reader's POV, reality changes into a novel and the sole reader of it, an average office worker, is the only person who knows how the world will end. And for the romance genre, let's use Castle Swimmer. Destined enemies by prophecy, two young sea creatures reject their destinies and embark on an adventure that leads to romance. After you finish with your logline, it's time to expand on your idea. Write a short paragraph of your plot, 250 words. You can add more details here. Get some inspiration from your favorite webtoon authors, use theirs. For instance, you can choose omniscience like I used here, or another one that you like. After you have your longline and basic plot figured out, it's time to make some outlines for your story and chapters. You don't need to have everything figured out in the beginning, you just need to have a rough outline for how your story will go and possibly the end. If you have trouble, you can help yourself with a chart like the hero's journey chart, or any plot diagram with a beginning, middle, and an end. After you figured out most of the story, the characters and how the plot will go, it's time to start designing. You can go in as much detail as you like here. Start creating concept designs for your characters, your world, your backgrounds, figure out the art style that you want your story to have, and create reference sheets. Once you're ready, it's time to move on and actually create the first chapter. You already have your characters, your backgrounds, and basic outlines of your story in mind ready. Now it's time to actually write the script for it. You don't need any fancy program for that. You can write it in Microsoft Word, in your Notes app, in a plain notebook. Just make sure to make clear where the scene is set, which time is it, which characters are present in the scene, and jot down any detail that you don't want to forget. You don't need to make it perfect. No one else but you is going to view your script after all, unless of course you work with an artist. It's finally time to bring the chapter to life. Using the script as a guideline, you need to bring your vision in paper. Create rough panels of how you want your chapter to look, making sure to establish the place where it's taking place and add panels for the characters' actions and dialogues. A tip I would give you would be to play with different shots and camera angles to make it look more interesting. Just try not to confuse your readers with too many camera rotations. In this stage, you turn the rough thumbnails into the sketch that will later on become the final panels. Go into your program of choice and create a new canvas. Make sure that your canvas size is following Webtoon guidelines. As you can see here, the system will automatically slice and reduce any images that exceed the maximum dimensions of 800 by 12,080 pixels. That doesn't mean that you should draw a canvas in this size, but I believe and I recommend you to draw at least in a canvas that has a width of 800 pixels. If you want to add more details, you can use a canvas with 1600 pixels of width, and you can make it as long as your drawing program allows. Add the panels as you sketch them in your storyboard, and you begin sketching. It is actually one of the most difficult and time-consuming stages, and I would advise you to use any means to your advantage. Use references, 3D models, anything to make your life easier and for your art to look better in the end. After you finished with your sketch, it's time to move to inking. The difficulty of this step depends on the clarity of the sketch. If you spend a lot of time sketching and making it look as clean as possible, inking is going to be quite easy. If you are like me and you want to do a rough sketch and call it a day, inking isn't going to be as easy. If you're using a program like Clip Studio Paint, make sure that you're using a new vector layer for the inking part. A vector layer is a layer that allows you to edit lines that have already been drawn. While standard raster layers record the layer's information using pixels, vector layers record the start point, the end point, and the curvature of each line. This allows you to zoom in and scale lines without losing image quality, and it can be of great help later on. For instance, a vector eraser can then easily erase in between lines. After you finish with your inking, set your layer to reference, if your drawing program has that option, and create a new layer below and start coloring. I like to paint the whole character silhouette in one layer and then add clip layers above for each color, for skin, for clothes, for hair. And for shading, I like to keep it simple. I use a soft airbrush to shade the skin and either a multiply layer to paint the shadows or an add overlay one to highlight the places where the light hits. After you finish with the coloring, it's time to add in effects such as light and dust particles, magic effects, shock lines, and anything you feel like would add to your scene. Just remember not to overdo it. At the same stage, also part of the editing is adding the text and speech bubbles. Clip Studio Paint has very easy tools to create some, while if I remember correctly, you will have to draw them on your own from scratch, with some shape tools of course in programs like Procreate. Add your text, make sure that it's the same font and size in all your panels, and you are ready to go. Export your Webtoon as a PNG or a JPEG, create a thumbnail for your chapter 320 by 322 pixels, add the thumbnail you want your chapter to have, and you're ready to go. Now, to actually upload it on Webtoon, create a new account or join your existing one, go to Dashboard and press the button Create a New Series. Add your two main genres, your title and summary, add your Webtoon's cover and thumbnail. Mind the sizes when you draw those two. As you can see for the thumbnail, it must be 1080 by 1080 and it must be less than 500 kilobytes. For the vertical cover, it must be 1080 by 1920 and it must be less than 700 kilobytes. Then, you press the green button which says create a series, and your series is ready to go. Don't forget to leave your series and title and link in the comments below so that I can check it out and tell you what I think. To upload your first chapter, go back into your dashboard, press add episode, upload the file from before, add the thumbnail, the title, chapter, episode 1, whatever you'd like to say, and if you'd like something else, add a short description, and you are done. Your first webtoon is now public and anyone can read it, get to know your story and your characters. Every time you would like to upload and draw a new chapter, you will have to go through steps 6 to 12 and 14 again, and do that every week for each new chapter you would like to upload. Good luck with your webtoon, and don't forget to comment below with your story and your summary and your link to it so that I can check it out and tell you what I think. If you want me to make a more specific tutorial about a part of this process, you can also write it down below, and I can make another video. If you like what you just watched, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.